Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be taking a look over here at the state of the crypto market as the total market cap of the whole crypto market sits right at $3 trillion and knocking on the 2021 all-time high, while Bitcoin sits up here at $91,000 as we kick off this new week, and the altcoin market bucks up against a 702 retracement over here for others, which is the altcoin market excluding the top 10, while things like Total 3 or the altcoin market excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum takes out the March highs here throughout the weekend. Of course, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that XRP is above $1 as the price continued to rampage throughout the weekend. We'll briefly touch on that. I think that deserves more of a dedicated video later today. But of course, it's not just XRP that has done well. There's several other assets that have really kind of been the leaders so far. So we'll touch on those as well, like you could see over here with Cardano. But also kind of reiterate what it's like moving up in a market, reiterating that corrections do come and what they can look like. And then at the same time, I'll kind of give an idea on how I'm looking at Bitcoin and the crypto market in general, now that we've seen the market rip up ever since the Russell 2000 was able to escape from that last retracement level. So I think the best place to start is really just talking about the total market cap of crypto, that we're sitting right back at the 2021 all-time high, trying to kind of poke through it. Nothing definitive has really happened. I think a clear break through the all-time highs when we actually see the craziness happen. And that gets a little bit corroborated by the fact that we have others sitting right here at the retracement levels. We talked about this last week, that it would probably be a bumpy ride getting back up, but it's really once we can get a clear breakthrough here that the actual crazy starts in this market. And I don't think we have reached the crazy at all yet. We have started to see the safety trade dominance start to shift down. It has been stuck in these prices since May. So seeing this start to fall means that the rally is broadening out throughout the whole crypto market rather than just being in Bitcoin and Ethereum or people sitting in stable coins. But right now, I think it's really trying to buck up against the resistance that's there from 2021. While total has poked above it slightly, just a little bit in here, and even just a couple hours ago, it was actually sitting just a hair above it. Total does also include all of the stable coins in it, like USDT and USDC. Whether or not that matters, or if we remove them, we can see that the entire total market cap of crypto, excluding Tether and excluding USDC, shows that we are still below there. So there hasn't been some like clean breakout that has happened yet, and others hasn't expanded out just yet. So I think as we're going into this week, there's still kind of this battle that's going to be happening right in here before we can say, hey, things are rocking and rolling. Like, I get it. We're all happy to see like a above $1 XRP price. Who wouldn't be happy to see that? But I think most people probably didn't come in here for an entire bull run to take them to right there. They're probably looking for something to at least get up into here, into the all-time highs. And so when we're looking at it through this lens, it's kind of being like, hey, or do we have the momentum to be able to start breaking and doing moves like that to get things into all-time highs? And I still think we're actually just kind of bucking up against all this resistance that's right in here before an actual expansion could take place. And I think we see that when we look at the total market cap of crypto and exclude the stable coins. And even if we don't exclude the stable coins, we could see that buck is still happening right in there. I'm not really looking for something to just kind of creep its way out, but something to be able to say, boom, definitively, you're out, which I think we will eventually get, but it would look something like that too, like a definitive break to actually happen in there. As of right now, it's really just kind of back at these levels, doing the big fight, and this fight could last a little while. Going back to the safety trade dominance, it doesn't have me nervous that things are coming to a conclusion just yet. If we saw this just stay right here the whole time, but at the same time, we did see this fall all the way back down to here, back into these levels, then my tone would change and be like, hey, look, I think we already did our whole rotation. We already have problems here, but we're just nowhere close to that. So still very optimistic that there's still quite a bit left in this market, and we haven't even expanded yet. Another positive thing about that is that we've seen it historically, that when we are reaching peak absolute euphoria, Coinbase app rank gets to like number 1 and stays there for a couple of weeks. We saw ourselves creeping up there to like rank number 15, and it's kind of cooled off here these last couple of days, which means we haven't reached like extreme euphoria of what we've seen historically. Hard to say. There's really a whole lot to read from that, but it definitely didn't hit levels of absolute insanity yet. So I don't think that we've gone too far. I think we're just kind of at this resistance level right here. And like we've talked about with others, back at this resistance level as well. And that this is going to be kind of the bumpy part that happens in here until a clean break happens. And then things are really on their way. The good news is one of those things we talked about last week and I've talked about for the last couple of months has been what it's like when the breadth of the market opens up. This thing is maxed out, this indicator that I built that shows when breadth is starting to open. We got a flash of it happen back there in September after 7 months of nothing. These things typically mark when bottoms are happening. And we talked a lot about it back there in September and even there in 2022. It just never flashes on. The breadth never opens. We made a big deal about breadth over the last year. And breadth is wide open. And no surprise that when the breadth of the market opens, XRP fires up, and we've now closed a couple of days above $1. So these are definitely optimistic signs. Everything is looking great. I think we're just bucking up against the big resistance, the one that is the level that, if broken, sends us off into expansion, but we're still fighting right now. Now, what's interesting about all of this is we've seen a few assets really kind of outperform the rest of the market. Most things have kind of been like kind of right in line with Bitcoin, a little under Bitcoin. However, some of the bigger notable names that have really kind of outperformed Bitcoin and outperformed really the entire market would be things like SWI, Cardano, Hedera Hashgraph, XRP, and Solana. Those have really been your strong names. We spent a lot of time looking at this throughout the depths of despair here in the crypto market. And you can see kind of the move that Cardano has done in here and things that just in the back of my mind, knowing that these things do happen, even in bull runs, is just big corrections happen and they can happen in a flash. And even structurally in this, it shows, hey, a big correction could happen in a flash. But I'm also locking in those names in my head of what have been those strong names. Things like SWI, Cardano, Hedera, XRP, Solana. But just not to be surprised that it's a battle to try to get out of there. And that there can be a lot of washing that happens in here before this thing can get itself to expand. And to know that when these corrections happen, even in moments like this, these things can feel really rough, 50%, 60%, and then shoot themselves right back up right again. But I think it's important to look at it through that lens. And I want to kind of reiterate the way I view Bitcoin. I'm not in the view of Bitcoin's going into a big, super long cycle that's going to last, another year and that we're going to see a $200,000 Bitcoin price. It's just not my thesis. Everybody's welcome to their own thesis. I think Bitcoin is probably pretty close to its top, but it takes time to work out a top. And a way that I kind of view Bitcoin is that really all the stuff we just did in here is just kind of similar to being like back in January and February of 2021. And the big break that we just had was similar to the break that kind of happened right in here. It's highly unlikely the price structure will look exactly like that. But the conceptual idea of it is just kind of building a topping process up in there. And to kind of see how this did play out in here. Waves were very similar, comes up and bucks up here near the top like this, right? And then it gets the clear break. And then things just kind of gradually grind their way up. And this thing just kind of builds a top in here. Now, the reason why that's interesting is because of what we're just talking about right in here on Cardano. Kind of like, hey, look, this thing is starting to just shoot its way out of there. And that there could be corrections along the way for this thing to start flipping its way up. But even looking at it through this lens of what it was like for crypto back here when that break did happen right there and this all occurred back over here, is that's really kind of what was happening in the market at that time. Those bigger moves were happening, followed by those bigger corrections happening in there. And it took getting a little further along in here before the big shootout happened in here. Like for Ethereum Classic, we're looking at right in here. This is $10 right in here, right? And then in this kind of rotational market that happens in here, that's 175. So from 10 to 175 all happens all throughout here. But just because we're up in here, there was still some washing to happen in here. And so come with like the messaging of being like, hey, look, everything is open, right? We're back at the resistance levels. We're back at resistance levels. We're back at resistance levels, but there could still be some washing happening in here before we can actually get that big break to end up happening. And what I'm giving you here is kind of an example of that, of how you can kind of wash around still in here. You can still be in a bull market. Things can be moving up, but there's still those bigger corrections. And even in something like this, you hadn't reached expansions happening just yet. it took kind of getting further along in here and for the market to have like confidence. Bitcoin has slowed down. There's not much more to make in Bitcoin. Start shooting it all throughout the altcoin market. And I think we're getting a glimpse of that, but I'm definitely not going to be shocked of extreme volatility happening right now. We are in volatility. And these types of things are great, but even like on Hedera, right? Even like looking back to what 2021 was like, there was a big break that happened right in here, then a big wash, then a big move back to the upside. And I think we're going to see a lot of that until we can definitively break and definitively break and definitively break. Because this thing could just come down here and just hang out for a little while. And we have to wait a month or so for something to play out down in here until finally, boom, things kick in. And so I'm not trying to necessarily be like, warning, warning, warning. It's actually exciting, exciting, exciting. It's more of just a reminder. We all get very excited when we see green, 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 green. And then we get accustomed to it. Like it's the only thing that charts can do. And if anything other than that happens, we get our theses questioned to say, hey, are things actually okay? Why is there red on the board when everything is supposed to be great? And just know, as we move up, there tend to be those big flash volatility moments, and then things turn themselves around and go back up again. And that's completely normal in bull markets, which we have the appearances of being in one. It's just there's kind of different phases of them. There's the recovery that happens, and then there's the expansion. And so we haven't quite hit the expansion phase just yet. We have our breadth wide open. Things have been going very well. We're bucking up against the big resistances. And while things have been exciting and seeing things go up 100% over the last week, those are great. But the crazy thing is this market can do more. And there still hasn't quite been that green light just yet of the big go, go, go. But you can clearly see it. The signs of it are starting to flash for it to come. So these are all great things. And I'm definitely not coming on here to be a bear and to scare you away. I'm coming to just kind of remind what it's like. Because I've been here for long enough that when these happen, we forget that even in bull markets, prices many times can act like this before the expansion happens, which we're still waiting on for total and we're still waiting on for others. But that it may be important to pay attention to who the strong names have been in the event that something like that does happen. But these are normal parts of the grind upwards until you get that break to end up happening. And that's what we're all waiting on. It's really exciting. We've got all the positive signs to get that Russell to clear those retrace levels, the breadth to open up in the market. All these things are just super fantastic. And the thing I'm just kind of reiterating here is that we haven't actually expanded into the crazy part yet. And so since we haven't expanded into the crazy part yet, we kind of look at it through the lens of what does the volatility look like before that? And can we have kind of some examples of what that was like maybe in a past bull run when we kind of mimic similar behavior? And we were mimicking very similar behavior to what we're seeing right now to then, where it was a lot of this kind of stuff happening in here, even though we had gotten out right in there, that there was still some of that volatility to happen. So super exciting, great time to be in the market, but our overhead fight is here. But boy, it sure is nice to see some prices that we haven't seen in 3 years. And things are definitely going the way we want them to go. We've got broad participation in the market, which is what we absolutely want to see. We're still just putting on this major fight here throughout the market before we can actually get the crazy to kick in, which for reference, when looking at things like the safety trade dominance, this was all good stuff in here, moving back down to those support levels, which is kind of what we're witnessing right in here. But the crazy didn't happen until that break came right there. And so that's still what we're trying to kind of work our way towards. Otherwise, we've got lots of optimistic signs happening here in the market. We're just still putting on our big fight before we can get to some crazy. And so I have to just kind of be like, what was it like last time we were fighting to get into the crazy? And it was a lot of this kind of stuff happening in there. And so if it ends up happening, we kind of know who the strong names have been. And well, if it doesn't, then let's go. I just think it's pretty probable we'll see quite a bit of volatility in here before we get the actual expansion to happen. But I also want to reiterate, we're showing a lot of the positive signs that you show that expansion does seem to be coming around the corner. We're just working our way to get there. And so that's just kind of my broader look at the market of where we're currently at right now. A lot of rotations are happening up in there as Bitcoin has kind of cooled off. We're seeing a lot of random altcoins just kind of pop, pop, pop. but we're still just waiting for the big event to actually end up happening. All signs point to things are looking good for that to eventually come, but we're still just waiting on it. But of course, to all the XRP people seeing above $1, it's like a dream waking up to see that. So, all right, I'll go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. A couple of days ago, I put out the new newsletter. It includes a 33-minute audio voiceover that I personally did. What we're talking about is, does this breakout have legs to it? Looking for confluence factors in macro and in crypto. We look to see where the strong performance is at by reviewing the sectors and the coins that are leading the charge. Also taking a look over there at which coins have good data, looking at data factors that have worked historically and which coins are meeting those standards right now. And then, looking ahead, how does the market historically play from here? So you can check this out over here on blockchainbacker.substack.com. There is a link in the description of this video to the newsletter. Otherwise, what a great weekend. And hopefully we have a great week. But all right, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.